Have you ever wanted to gold gild and paint your furniture? Well, here's your chance. We're going to take this piece that I got on Marketplace and we are going to turn it into this masterpiece. First things first, you got to get yourself a piece that you want to add some texture to. This Drexel piece came with a really cool stone top that was a little wobbly, so we had to fix that. Now, when you're painting a piece, you want to get every fix you can done first. I failed here at trying to fix the stone and clamp it, but I got smart, tilted the piece on its head, had the wood glue already in, and put some wood in to secure it down. The weight of the dresser is going to make sure the wood glue works. And now we get started with cleaning. I'm using Goof Off Power Degreaser to degloss the entire piece before I get started sanding. To get paint to adhere perfectly, you're going to want to clean your piece super well. So use a degreaser at first, then you're going to want to wipe it down just with a little bit of soapy water, and you're going to want to wipe it down with just water and dry it clean with a microfiber cloth. When your piece is dry, you can take whatever sander you have and get to work. You're just doing a scuff sand. I'm using the Surf Prep 3/4 sander. I've linked everything I'm using in the description below. This is not a newbie sander, but oh my gosh, it's worth it. It's dustless. But inside all these crevices, I did have to hand sand because the sander would not fit. And even on small grooves like this, the paint and primer are not going to adhere properly unless everything has a scuff sand and something to cling to. Make sure that you vacuum all dust up with a shop vac before you wipe it clean and get ready for primer. Tape off any area that you don't want the paint and the primer to adhere to. So we're going to tape off the stone in this case. Now the primer that I love is shellac. Now it's gone up so much with inflation. I think the last time I bought it, it's now like $85 a gallon. But I can use it on quite a few pieces, so it's still worth it for me. It seals everything in. I let my shellac dry about 24 hours because then it seals in everything perfectly. You're not going to get any bleed through with this shellac. It's awesome. I do give my shellac prime a 220 sanding just to get any little rough areas or places that the primer was not consistently sprayed. Once you're done, vacuum that up, wipe it with a tack cloth, and you are ready to paint. The color that I'm using here is called Persian Blue. It's a milk paint by General Finishes. I love their milk paints. They have great consistency and they spray really well. The sprayer I'm using is the Wagner Control Double Duty. It is more of a beginner sprayer and it sprays this flawlessly. I've since upgraded to the Flexio 5000, but I still love this one. After 2 coats of paint, I applied a satin polyacrylic over the top to give it durability and some sheen. Most chalk and milk paints you do need to give a top coat to. Make sure that no hairs fly in your top coat. You can also put a little bit of paint in your top coat to tint it to make sure that that color and application is flawless. Now let's get started with the gold gilding. First, I took off that paper and you saw I'm using a Loctite adhesive spray. I spray a small area and then I lay down my gold gilding and I press it down, and I'm using a wax brush actually to press it onto the surface. It makes it all crinkly up and you can't even tell where the seams are. The Loctite adhesive spray makes it really easy because you can spray on top of the gold gilding as well, because as you push it down, it's going to move away from the surface just a bit, creating little gaps. So you can double layer. I actually triple layered a lot of these areas because I wanted to give it a lot of texture. And this is the magic of using that wax brush, or really any paintbrush, is when you're tapping it down, it creates that crinkle effect. So it just gives it so much texture. And now we're on to the front. I knew something was missing as soon as I looked at the front of the piece and knew that we needed to add some more gold. I took a poll on my Instagram, and a lot of people thought the little flowery things, what would you call them? Now, because these were a little different, I actually used Mod Podge, and it worked fantastically. I added probably about 3 layers of the gold gilding, and I used a paintbrush and a Cricut tool. If I would have used that spray adhesive here, I wouldn't have had the control to only get it on the areas that I wanted it to get on. So if you're using spray on a larger surface, it works so much faster and perfect, but this was a very distinct spot that I wanted it, and so I had to be really careful with exactly where I was putting it. Once the gold was done everywhere that I wanted it, I finished everything up with one more coat of polyacrylic. I actually added 2 layers on the top and 1 over the gold on the front to give it a really soft sheen and to make sure this gold is not going anywhere and it can be easily wiped clean. I let it dry overnight, and the next day I staged it and sold it pretty quickly within just a week. Now the next gold gilding I'm going to show you is that you can also gold gild your hardware that you put on the front of dressers. You can gold gild the top of furniture or the front of furniture, but you can also gold gild hardware. So I'm going to show you where I put the rest of the gold leafing. With this particular hardware, it was the original that came with the dresser and went almost underneath at the bottom of each drawer. So I wanted to keep it, but I wanted to jazz them up a little bit, make them not look so plain. I started out by cleaning them and spraying the metallic gold hardware. That created a sticky enough surface where I was able to put the gold leaf right on top. I used the same technique that I did with the other piece, which was just using my hands to pat it down and then using a paintbrush to get it on there and texture it up a little bit. You can do multiple layers. It's not going to have such a big surface to attach to, so you do kind of need to move it around. But after spraying the metallic gold, then you can move on to a polyacrylic spray. They make that same polyacrylic that you put on dressers that's in the can, in the blue can. They make that in a spray can. It's fantastic. Always have some on hand. That's what it looks like. But when you spray that on, you create another sticky surface to add another layer and make sure that it's sealed properly. So I used it at the end, but I used it through the process as well. Once I had this how I wanted it and I had just finished the dresser, I added these, and this piece also sold very quickly. So different techniques like this, adding gold gilding, and this gold gilding is so inexpensive from Amazon. It's linked in my description. You can get so many sheets for just a few bucks. Adding this type of distinguishable element to your pieces will make them stand out, they will sell faster, and you'll get more of a top dollar. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial on gold gilding. I will see you all next week.